So about a year ago, I had a couple western fence lizards and a new leopard gecko whose primary feeder insect was mealworms. So I decided I didn't want to pay pet stores to get mealworms from them anymore. I wanted to breed my own. So of course, I bought a bunch of mealworms in bulk. I think I got 1,000 mealworms from Fluker Farms. I think it was pretty cheap. It was like $15. So the shipping was really fast. Most of the worms were alive when they got to me, and the ones that weren't alive were probably included in the overcount because, of course, they give an overcount to ensure that you have what you ordered after some of the crickets die, insects die or escape during shipping. So, of course, I didn't need 1,000 mealworms for a colony that was only going to be feeding like 4 lizards, but I didn't know any better, so of course I got 1,000 mealworms and turned them all into beetles. Just put them into a container with oatmeal as the substrate. Excuse me. And they did their thing, turned into pupa. I removed the pupa, put them into a cup. They turned into beetles. Beetles mated, laid eggs. Eggs hatched, and the cycle would start over again. But that kind of got out of hand quickly because although I was selling the mealworms as fast as I possibly could and also using quite a few of them, by the time I stopped, I actually had like 5,000 in my mini fridge. So, yeah, I shouldn't have had that many beetles to start with. Lesson learned, if I ever breed mealworms again, I will not do that. But mealworms aren't the best feeder insect anyway. They're just not as nutritionally balanced as crickets or Dubia roaches are, and I am allergic to Dubia roaches. I get an itchy rash if I'm around them for too long, and apparently that's a relatively common allergy you can get. It's actually due to the mold that naturally lives on their backs. It starts as an itchy rash and can eventually turn into respiratory issues. So of course I don't want that, so I try to stay away from Dubia roaches unless it's just, I get a couple Dubia roaches and I'm feeding them to my geckos. But I definitely don't want to breed them because that would require me being in contact with them too much, and I don't want to have respiratory issues every time I'm around a Dubia roach. That's just not fun. So I've been breeding crickets. My first attempt, I learned some things. It was a complete failure. I used vermiculite, moistened vermiculite, as the laybox medium, which for leopard geckos and other reptiles seems to work really well. For crickets, it does not. The crickets don't really recognize it as a place to lay their eggs, so I just had a moist box of vermiculite in the adult cricket enclosures. It really wasn't a very good attempt. Sorry about that. So yeah, that was a complete failure, and even the few eggs that I did get didn't hatch. I tried several different methods of incubating them. I used an under tank heater on one batch of eggs. I did get a few eggs, although I didn't get as many as I could have. I used an under tank heater on one batch. I used a ceramic heat emitter on the other, and yeah, those were the two incubation methods I used at first, and neither of them worked. With the under tank heater, it wouldn't get warm enough. The cricket eggs need to be kept at around 90 degrees, so I go for a soil temperature, or in this case vermiculite temperature, of 90 degrees. But I couldn't get the soil warm enough with the under tank heater, so what I did was I covered it with tinfoil, thinking that the tinfoil would trap in heat, but it also trapped in moisture and prevented airflow. And warm, moist environments with stagnant air in vermiculite with, live, like, organic matter, cricket eggs, and also some of the cricket's food got in there. That sounds like a really great place to breed mold. And yeah, I ended up breeding mold that time. Yeah, so I threw out those eggs. That didn't end up working. And then with the ceramic heat emitter, it didn't get warm enough, which I was surprised because ceramic heat emitters usually get pretty warm. But what I found was it heated up the surface of the laybox, but it didn't heat up the inside, which is where the eggs were, so that's where it really mattered. So it didn't really get warm enough when I was using a ceramic heat emitter, so that didn't really work. And besides, the ceramic heat emitter dried it out like super fast, so that didn't work either. So finally, This year I decided to breed my leopard geckos, as you know. So I got my first eggs and I put them in the incubator, and the incubator was working pretty well. So I figured, you know what, I'm gonna put some of my feeder crickets that I'm gonna be feeding to Lynetta into a heated container with coconut fiber as the lay box medium, and then I'll incubate it in the incubator. And I did, and it worked. So now that I am actually breeding crickets, I'm going to show you exactly what the process looks like from start to finish. If the crickets are egg laying right now, I'm not sure if they are, but if they are, I will definitely show you what the egg laying looks like. I'm not sure if they are, though. It is still daytime, so they may not be laying. They're usually nocturnal, so there is that. But who knows, they might be laying. And then I'll show you what the enclosures look like for all life stages. The hatchlings to adults all basically stay in the same kind of enclosure. And then I'll show you what the incubator looks like. And currently the incubator actually has one egg cup in it, which is a great example of a egg cup that has a lot of eggs laid in it. So yeah, I'll show you that, and hopefully if you're looking into breeding crickets for feeder insects or fish bait or whatever, this will be helpful. So this is the container the adult crickets are kept in. This is a 30-gallon tank, and I have recycled paper bedding for small animals on for the substrate, because the crickets can eat it and it won't do any damage to them, and it actually is very absorbent, so it doesn't smell and it absorbs moistures. If you look in there, all I have for like decorations, I guess, is the egg flats in there, which they like to climb around in and hide in. And then if you look closely, I have this, I guess it's a laying box. It has coconut fiber in it, and right now nobody's laying, but when they do, that is where they will be doing it. And if you look in here, you'll notice all of these crickets, if you look at their tail end, they have 3 spikes coming out of their tail end, and the way you can tell a male cricket from a female cricket is a male cricket does not have that middle spike. And the middle spike is actually called an ovipositor, and that is what the females use to deposit the eggs in said lay box. So, in short, that is how you tell if a cricket is male or female. I only have females in here because the males are actually notorious for eating the eggs, so I got rid of them after they did their job, and just fed them to my gecko. I'm a traitor. Anyway, so yeah, that is the adult setup. It's just heated to 86 degrees using an Exoterra night glow bulb. That's because it's less stressful for them to have a night glow bulb at night than it would be to have, say, a full-on basking bulb. And I don't have to regulate it with a thermostat just because it stays within like 80, it stays like 84 degrees in there. So even if there was a minor difference of, even up to 3 degrees, it would not be a big deal. But I do monitor it with a thermometer, so I make sure that it doesn't get over the correct temperature. So now I'm going to show you the enclosure I have set up for the crickets I hatched a couple weeks ago. Okay, so this is the container I have the crickets in that hatched a couple weeks ago. And if it looks like it's kind of messy here, not just in the container, but everywhere, it's because I'm in my parents' basement right now. They were good with me breeding crickets on the one condition that I kept it in the basement, so that's where I've been keeping my cricket breeding operation, and the basement isn't the nicest, so I keep my geckos upstairs and I keep my crickets in the basement. I mean, I guess it's fine to have bugs down here. Anyway, so these are the remaining crickets that I hatched. There were a lot more, but I fed most of them to my hatchling leopard gecko Rex and his little brother, who has yet to be named. Speaking of which, if you have any name suggestions, be sure to leave them in the comments below. So now I will show you the container I have the pinhead crickets that hatched a couple days ago in. Okay, so this is the container I have the pinhead crickets in. If you look here, this is like their main hangout spot for some reason. It's not even the warmest part of the enclosure, but whatever. You can see they are aptly named pinheads. They are extremely small. They just hang out and will grow and eat. The reason I still have the egg-laying container that they were laid into originally as eggs is because I only put them in here a couple days ago, and they, for some reason, like to stay in the egg container for a couple days after they hatch. So I don't know why that is, but they do, so I just leave the entire egg container in there and make sure they're able to get out. So yeah, I'm just heating this enclosure the same way I'm heating the adult's enclosure. It's a very similar enclosure, except for no paper bedding, just because I didn't think it was necessary. A lot of people say paper bedding is not necessary, and I agree. I'm sorry, no bedding is necessary, and I agree with that. I like to use bedding on my adults' enclosures because, let's face it, the adults are very, very smelly, and I don't like the stink. So, yeah, if we're being honest, that is why I don't put paper bedding in the hatchling or young cricket enclosure. Okay, lastly, this is the incubator that I am incubating the eggs in. It's just a styrofoam cooler, and I think you've already seen my video on how to make an incubator, but I'll put a link to that in the description if you haven't seen that. So basically, it's just a thermostat over there, 2 viewing windows, and a styrofoam cooler, and then on the inside, you can see flex watt heat tape in the bottom, the other side of the thermostat, and egg crate light panel from Home Depot, which acts as a support for the egg boxes. And this is just 2-inch PVC pipe that helps hold the platform up. And then in here, if you look here, I actually labeled this with the date I took it out, which was May 19th, 2022. It only takes 11 days at 90 degrees to hatch crickets, and if you look, all those little yellow pills are actually cricket eggs, so they should be hatching literally any day now. So I'm really excited about that. It's probably going to be my best clutch ever. So yeah, so this is the incubator I use to hatch all of my cricket eggs in. So that is the entire cricket breeding project that I have going on. Of course, it's going to get bigger as I get more baby crickets. The older crickets that I bred, the ones that aren't the adults that are breeding, but the ones that I feed to Rex, those ones were the first kind of guinea pigs. Excuse me. I didn't know I was going to actually have success, so I didn't have any follow-up clutches. So of course they are going to be the oldest ones for a while, and then I have those pinheads, and they're the next oldest. So I'm going to finish off the ones that I feed to Rex, that size, small I guess. I'll finish off the small, and then I'll probably have to buy some more from the pet store until I can feed the pinheads to Rex and his brothers. So yeah, I hope this video is helpful if you're trying to, start a breeding colony of crickets, or if you're just figuring out how to take care of crickets, if you're, want to get some in bulk because you don't want to, just get a few every week. You want to learn how to actually keep them alive for a long time. And that's the thing, depending on the age of you get your crickets, they can actually live for a relatively good long time. If you get just the regular larges from a pet store, not extra large. I'm not sure if all pet stores have an extra large. The extra larges are usually already bred and usually near the end of their lifespan. So I would always recommend that you get larges, just because, unless you're going every week, just because the larges will probably last you a bit longer. And then to keep them alive, you want to heat the enclosure to about 82 to 86 degrees, probably around 82 if you're trying to just keep them alive, because 86 will speed up their metabolism rate and make them grow faster. And if they're growing faster, then if they're growing faster, then of course they're not going to stay small for long, and larges for long. They'll get to extra large, and when they're extra large, they'll be close to their end of the lifespan anyway. So it just doesn't really work if you get extra larges, and it doesn't really work if you get if you put them at 86 degrees, unless you're trying to raise and breed them. Because of course, if you're trying to raise and breed them, you want them to grow as fast as possible, unless you have too many, in which case you want to cut it down to 82. I think I've made myself clear. Anyway, so yeah. Again, I hope you found this video helpful, or at least enjoyable. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.